Namaskar and welcome to Midday Prime, updates from India and around the world about the collective fight against COVID and also government formation in 4 states and 1 union territory that have new assemblies elected. But first, the big news at this hour. The Supreme Court concludes hearing on the EC's plea challenging the Madras High Court order wherein it criticized the poll panel for the failure to maintain COVID-19 protocols during the poll campaigns. The Supreme Court says sometimes we are harsh because we want to see in the larger public interest something is done. The fight continues against COVID-19. Over 3 lakh patients recover in the last 24 hours. Case fatality rate declines to 1.10%. Over 15.72 crore COVID vaccine doses administered so far. More than 29.16 crore COVID tests conducted. The Indian Railways is continuing its journey of bringing relief by delivering liquid medical oxygen to various states across the country. Delivers a cumulative 1,125 metric tons of liquid oxygen by 20 oxygen expresses. 7 oxygen expresses on the run with 422 MT of LMO. Amid the rising corona cases, Punjab too issues new guidelines in view of COVID-19. Nobody to enter the state, whether by air, rail or road, without either a COVID negative report or a vaccination certificate. Uttar Pradesh, Odisha and Haryana extend the lockdown. The DMK is all set to form the next government in Tamil Nadu. The party president M.K. Stalin to meet the newly elected legislators tomorrow to formally elect the new legislative party leader. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold a virtual summit with his UK counterpart tomorrow. A comprehensive roadmap for 2030 will be launched during the summit, which will pave the way for further expanding and deepening India-UK cooperation over the next decade across 5 key areas. Both leaders will also discuss efforts to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. So let's begin with the big story at this time. Well, the Supreme Court today conducted hearing on the Election Commission's plea challenging the Madras High Court order wherein it criticized the poll panel for failure to maintain COVID-19 protocols during poll campaigns. During the hearing, the Election Commission told the Apex Court that when rallies were happening, the situation was not that bad. Raising serious objections to the observations made by the Madras High Court, the Election Commission of India said that its observation led to a continued discussion on the electronic media that we are murderers, unquote. Well, upset over the High Court's scathing remarks against it, the Election Commission on Saturday had moved the Supreme Court, saying the remarks were uncalled for, blatant and disparaging. The Madras High Court had on April 26 castigated the Election Commission for the surge in COVID-19 cases during the second wave of the pandemic, holding it singularly responsible for the spread of the viral disease, and even said that its officials may be booked under murder charges. The Supreme Court said that it will pass the order expeditiously next week. Well, Vikas Sarthi now joins us with inputs on this. Vikas, so spell it out for us exactly what has the Supreme Court said. It hasn't yet passed its order.
Well, Mark, Supreme Court, the first thing is that Supreme Court has outrightly rejected any restraint on media from publishing those observations of Madras High Court. Supreme Court was of the opinion that oral observations are also a very important part of court proceedings, and they cannot be and media cannot be restrained from publishing them or from giving any information of those oral observation.
Okay.
So far as those comments are concerned, court said that some observations were too harsh, but the election commission should look them as a bitter pill, which was meant for betterment of election commission's functioning. In fact, court also said that after those observations, you took some very positive steps, like passing an order and banning all kind of victory processions. So court said that those observations were taken seriously by you, and you worked and you passed appropriate orders after those observations. So you see that that part of the story as well. Now court said that the court cannot restrain. Supreme Court cannot restrain high courts from making these kind of observations. But so far as this case is concerned, court said that we will try to find a balance between these two constitutional bodies, and the court will try to find a midway. But what will be that balance, we will later know when Supreme Court gives its order on next week. But court made it very clear that it is not going to restrain media from publishing any kind of oral observations.
Indeed. So the media is not restrained in any way. But there has been no real observation on the wording of, let's say, murder charges, for instance, that the Election Commission was particularly worried about.
Well, Supreme Court said that those words were too harsh, but even those words may be spelled out in a fit of anger and anguish while court was hearing this issue, because thousands of people are suffering from COVID-19. Death toll was going upwards, and maybe due to anguish, court made those kind of observation. But apart from it, Supreme Court said that we are not going to ask High Court to not say anything during the course of proceedings. In fact, court said that oral observations are equally important, are as important as the written orders. So Election Commission may treat as a bitter pill. That was the suggestion from the Supreme Court.
Thank you very much, Vikas Sarthi, for giving us the sum and substance of that particular story. Moving on then to our developing story. Well, overcoming all hurdles and finding new solutions, the Indian Railways is continuing its journey of bringing relief by delivering liquid medical oxygen to various states across the country. So far, Indian Railways has delivered approximately 1,125 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen in 76 tankers to various states across the country. 20 oxygen expresses have already completed their journeys, and 7 more have been loaded with oxygen expresses. And they are on the run, in fact, carrying approximately 422 metric tons of LMO. This is in 27 tankers. So more oxygen expresses to Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Telangana, Haryana and Delhi, carrying 422.08 MT of LMO in 7 oxygen expresses are on their way. And the third oxygen express to Delhi, carrying 120 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen, is on its way from Durgapur and is expected to reach Delhi tomorrow. The oxygen express from Angul in Odisha reached the Northern Railways' Delhi division in the wee hours today. The express delivered 30.66 metric tons of liquid oxygen loaded in 2 tankers. Earlier, the national capital received a second oxygen express with 120 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen from Durgapur. And Telangana will receive its second oxygen express from Angul, carrying 60.23 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen. Also, Haryana will receive its 4th and 5th oxygen express, carrying nearly 72 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen. The express trains are coming from Angul and Raukera in Odisha. And another oxygen express with 85 tons is on its way from Hapa in Gujarat and reaching Gurgaon for delivery to the NCR region. Internationally as well, things are moving. Countries across the globe continue to extend their help to India in dealing with this second wave of COVID-19. The Indian community in Qatar has been generous. They made a generous contribution through the ICBF, an organization under the aegis of the Embassy of India in Qatar. 200 oxygen cylinders and 43 oxygen concentrators were shipped by INS Kolkata yesterday to India, miles apart, yet part of India's fight against COVID, is what they said. And the Indian Oil Corporation Limited and the Indian Air Force are taking every initiative to procure cryogenic oxygen cylinders from Germany. A flight has left for India today. And standing in solidarity with the Indian community as the country continues to deal with devastating COVID cases, Halifax City Hall lit in the tricolors of India yesterday. India has thanked Toronto for this gesture and expressed deep appreciation for their support and solidarity. So we can see clearly that the whole world is standing with India, help and support coming in from every corner of the world. And our thanks should go to the Ministry of External Affairs for coordinating all this, and of course the government of India led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Abhishek Jha is joining us with more inputs on the story. Well, Abhishek, so we've been talking, about how this continuous support is coming in from different parts of the world. Tell us a little bit about how all this is being processed and delivered to the final, the people who really need it.
Mark, there are a few committees or the group of, responsible officials, high-level officials, who first assess the demand across the country. What are the basic demands? What are the equipments that are needed? Then that demand is actually raised further to another committee, another high-level group where MEA officials are also present, and then this demand is also, they are apprised of the basic demands. And now MEA, since they have a wide network of their embassies and missions across the world, so they are actually the first person who know where the resources are available and how quickly they can be airlifted or supplied back to home. And this is how this whole network is working. And then also there are a group of senior officials who also work on how every resource that is reaching to our land is processed quickly. Taxations and all those custom that are required, custom officials and custom processing are finished quickly, and those resources and equipments are deployed in the crisis-ridden hospitals across the country.
Right.
So this is how this whole thing is being processed. There are some countries like USA sent some tranche of supplies, and those supplies were delivered to Indian Red Cross, and now the Indian Red Cross will be taking that forward, where to deploy those resources, where the ventilators would go, where the plants would go. France had sent few oxygen plants, and one of the oxygen plants is being reported to have been established or become operational at Commonwealth Games Village, where Delhi government has created a 500-bed oxygen hospital for COVID patients especially. And with the establishment of this oxygen plant, we can assume that there will be sustained or continuous supply of oxygen to the patients. Other resources are also trying to be procured so that these oxygen beds can be converted to advanced stage where the further treatment of patients or more critical patients can be also taken care of.
So Abhishek, it's very clearly a targeted response based on India's needs. There is coordination and communication that is taking place between the embassies and the MEA, and only those things that India needs are actually being sent. Is that a fair assessment?
Because of course, Mark, because in the hour of crisis, there are obviously empathy from across the world, from government, from individuals, NGOs. They also come forward and they want to help. They seek government's advisory and government's response or demand that what all are the stuff that is needed there, because we don't need enough of face masks. We may have enough of certain commodities that are not urgently needed there. So I mean, just for example, but then accordingly, those individual groups or NGOs prioritize the supplies, that what are the things that India is currently needing most, whether it is PPE kit or face shields or masks or different ICU beds or ICU equipments, and also the demand as per and also their availability with their in their area or among their networks, and accordingly balancing those two factors. the supplies are made, the requisition that Indian embassies are creating across the world that are met, and those supplies are coming back to India. And this whole chain of supplies is still continuing, and it has started in the last week only, and it is assumed that as the
Right.
world is coming
Right,
forward to
Abhishek.
help India, more such demands will be met in future.
Abhishek Jha, thanks very much for those inputs. Moving on then to our next story. India has registered 3,68,147 new COVID cases in the past 24 hours, as per the Health Ministry of the Government of India. India is on a steady growing path. Over 3 lakh recoveries in the last 24 hours, 3,732 to be precise. These recoveries were recorded in the last 24 hours, and that takes the total, that's the cumulative total we're talking about, of recovered patients to 1,62,93,003. And with this, the recovery rate stands at 81.77%. India's total active caseload is at 34.13 lakh today. And the country's present active caseload, it consists of 17.13% of the total positive cases. The fatality rate stands at 1.10%. And notably, India has crossed the landmark milestone in COVID-19 vaccinations, recording over 15.71 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses. They have been administered so far. 15 crore 71 lakh 98,700, 207 vaccination doses to be precise, have been given thus far, and 12 lakh 10,347 doses were administered yesterday. So the Government of India is leading the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic in collaboration with the states and union territories through the whole of government approach, including carrying out effective vaccination drive. And it has also clarified that media reports alleging that the centre has not placed any fresh order for COVID-19 vaccines are incorrect, not based on facts. The government has so far provided nearly 16.54 crore vaccine doses to states and union territories free of cost. And of this, the total consumption, including wastage, is around 15.79 lakh doses, and over 75 lakh COVID vaccine doses are still available with the states and union territories to be administered. Furthermore, over 59 lakh vaccine doses will be received in addition by the states and union territories within the next 3 days. And implementation of the liberalized and accelerated phase 3 strategy of COVID-19 vaccination has started from the 1st of May. Registration for the new eligible population groups commenced, as we know, on the 28th of April. Meanwhile, according to the Indian Council of Medical Research, 29 crore 16 lakh 47,037 samples were tested for COVID-19 across the country. And out of this, 15 lakh 4,698 samples were tested yesterday. The third and the largest phase of vaccination began in Delhi as well today. People in the age group of 18 to 45 are being given their jabs against coronavirus. Around 90 lakh people in this category are eligible for the jabs. Pre-registration is mandatory for beneficiaries in the 18 to 45 age group, and there will be no walk-in for this category for now. Vaccination began at 301 centers across 76 schools for the inoculation exercise. The government has set up vaccination centers at schools to accommodate a high number of beneficiaries. The Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi, Manish Sisodia, has said that the government will continue to expand the number of centers as they receive more vaccines. Meanwhile, private hospital chains Apollo, Fortis and Max have already started vaccinating people in the 18 to 45 age group at limited centers. They did so from Saturday.
दिल्ली सरकार के 76 स्कूलों में ये वैक्सीनेशन का प्रोग्राम शुरू हुआ है, और यहाँ पर जिस तरह से आप देख रहे हैं कि इसी स्कूल में पैरेलल 5 सेंटर्स बनाए गए हैं। तो इस तरह से पूरी दिल्ली में इस वक्त आज 301 सेंटर्स पर वैक्सीनेशन का प्रोग्राम शुरू हुआ है 18 साल से 45 साल के बीच के लोगों के लिए। और क्योंकि आज पहला दिन है, हम इसको और आगे बढ़ाएंगे। हमारा टारगेट है कि हर स्कूल में इस तरह से कम 10 सेंटर्स हों, और अभी इसको धीरे धीरे करके हम 300 स्कूलों तक लेके जाएंगे।
And people from across Maharashtra who have recovered from COVID-19 have started sharing their experiences with positivity that can overcome the virus. This is by following COVID-appropriate behavior at home and by following government protocols. So they have also shared the importance of yoga, which helps to build a strong physical, mental and spiritual state of mind and body. Let's listen to them.
पिछले महीने में 10 तारीख को कोविड पॉजिटिव रिपोर्ट आया था। उसके एक दिन पहले मुझे बुखार और खांसी थी और डॉक्टर की सलाह लेने के बाद मुझे उन्होंने होम आइसोलेशन का पर्याय प्राप्त किया और उस हिसाब से उन्होंने दिए हुए सूचनों का और ट्रीटमेंट का पालन करते हुए मैंने होम आइसोलेशन स्वीकार किया। उस बीमारी से मैं बाहर भी आ गया।
Well, that was one of the people who's given their response, one of the people who's recovered from COVID. Well, one such patient from Raisan in Madhya Pradesh shares his experience, and he asks people to not fear COVID, but to follow the government guidelines.
मैसेज आया कि मैं कोविड-19 पॉजिटिव हूँ। डॉक्टर्स ने मुझे सलाह दी कि आप अपने आप को होम आइसोलेट करें और उन्होंने कुछ मुझे दवाइयाँ दी, किट्स दी। डॉक्टर्स ने जो बातें मुझे हिदायत के रूप में दी थी, मैंने उसे मंत्र के रूप में स्वीकार किया और अपने घर में रहते हुए मैंने घर में रहने के दौरान भी मैंने मास्क का नियमित रूप से इस्तेमाल किया। हाथों को लगातार साफ करता रहा सैनिटाइजर और साबुन से। मैंने तो होम आइसोलेशन में रहते हुए अपने आप को पूर्ण स्वस्थ किया। मैं आज आपके सामने हूँ। उम्मीद है हम और आप सभी होम आइसोलेशन में रहते हुए कोविड-19 की गाइडलाइन का पालन करेंगे और कोविड-19 के खिलाफ जो एक जंग पूरे भारत में इस समय लड़ी जा रही है, अपने आप को एक वॉरियर, एक योद्धा के रूप में हम और आप सब स्थापित करके उस जंग को जीतने में एक महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाएंगे।
Meanwhile, Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan announced that the state government has declared all accredited journalists as frontline workers. He also said that the working journalists are doing a great service to the state by providing seamless news feed, making people aware about COVID-related issues, and they are a great support in this war against COVID.
हमारे पत्रकार मित्र इस कोविड के खतरनाक काल में अपनी जान जोखिम में डाल के अपने धर्म का निर्वाह कर रहे हैं और इसलिए मध्य प्रदेश में सभी अधिमान्यता प्राप्त पत्रकारों को हमने फ्रंट लाइन वर्कर घोषित करने का फैसला किया है। उनका पूरा ध्यान रखा जाएगा, उनकी पूरी चिंता की जाएगी।
Shifting focus, in Karnataka, 24 people reportedly died at a COVID hospital in Chamarajanagar yesterday, allegedly due to a shortage of oxygen supply. Taking note of the situation, the Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa spoke to the Chamarajanagar district collector over this incident and called an emergency cabinet meeting. Meanwhile, the state Home Minister Baswaraj Bommai has sought a detailed report on this incident. He added that the government is working towards meeting the oxygen supply demand and it will stabilize in a few days. And Aisha Khanam is joining us with more on this story. Well, Aisha, so give us an overview actually about the situation with regard to oxygen in the state of Karnataka.
Well, Mark, the government is taking stock of the situation of the oxygen that is there in Karnataka. But right now, the government has stated clearly that though there is enough oxygen, but there is a shortage of storage facilities in several hospitals, the small nursing homes, and also some government hospitals. So the government is making arrangements to create a storage facility for the oxygen supply in all these hospitals. At the moment, the government is procuring oxygen from Bellary Steel plant, and that is being utilized mostly in Bangalore. But the incident that happened in Chamarajanagar, which is near Mysore district,
Yes.
The government has said that it is wrong to say that these deaths were due to the shortage of oxygen. However, the relatives of these patients are protesting outside the hospital. The opposition is calling it a murder and accusing that the government failed to protect the lives of these 24 people in Chamarajanagar. The district collector has stated clearly that the deaths happen in different times during the different timing during the day, and he has given details stating that the oxygen supply was restored to the government hospital around 2:30 p.m. last night. But the big question is whether these oxygen cylinders were used, whether they were put into act as soon as they were received from Mysore. This is a big question. And the collector says that the death happened because 18 of these patients had severe comorbidities. And he says that the doctors in the hospital have given a report stating that it is wrong to say that the oxygen shortage led to the death. So right now the Home Minister Basuraj Bommai has asked for a detailed report, and he is awaiting the report in this matter. And the Karnataka Chief Minister will take stock of the situation in the state, and the state government says that this demand will be restored within 2 days, and the state government is also awaiting its quota from the center.
Right. Thanks very much, Aisha, for those inputs. Moving on then to our next story. In view of the rising cases and in order to keep transmission of COVID-19 in check, the Uttar Pradesh government has imposed a partial corona curfew till 7 a.m. on the 6th of May. The weekend lockdown in the state began at 8 p.m. on Friday and was supposed to end on Tuesday at 7 a.m. But now the partial corona curfew has been extended till 7 a.m. on Thursday. And during this period, all essential services will be allowed and vaccination drive will continue. The restrictions will continue as earlier, and the markets, shopping malls, restaurants will remain shut. The government has advised people to remain indoors. Religious places will remain closed as per the order. And in the assembly elections held in 4 states and 1 union territory, the ruling parties retained power in Assam, West Bengal and Kerala, while the opposition parties will form government in Tamil Nadu and in Puducherry. So the West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee came out on top, fighting off a stiff challenge posed by the BJP, though she herself lost her Nandigram seat. But in Assam, the BJP retained power. The Left Democratic Front, they would secure second term in Kerala. And in Tamil Nadu, the DMK-led alliance toppled the AIDMK government, and there they would be a regime change there, as well as in Puducherry. And it is to be noted that the final results of Tamil Nadu were still awaited when this report last came in, but those results are probably out by now. In West Bengal, according to the final data released by the Election Commission, for 292 seats, the TMC has won 213 seats, the BJP has won 77, others have won 2 seats. And despite the TMC's stellar performance in the assembly polls, Mamata Banerjee herself lost the polls to the BJP leader Suvendu Adhikari in Nandigram. Suvendu Adhikari had got 1,09,673 votes, and Mamata Banerjee garnered 1,07,937 votes. It was a close fight, but Mamata Banerjee lost. So Prasenjit now joins us with more on this story. Well, Prasenjit, Mamata Banerjee will be meeting her leaders. This will be a virtual meeting. It's going to happen in a short while from now. Tell us, what's she expected to do? Is she expected to meet the governor? When is the government going to be formed? Fill us in with the details.
Yeah, Mark, the point is that this is a very formal meeting after the thumping majority in the assembly. Mamata wanted to meet her MLAs, member of legislative assembly. But as the situation is COVID period, so the meeting will be virtual, and it is accepted fact that Mamata will be the leader of the house. So in that case, she will be meeting the governor at 7 in the evening to place her stake for the forming of government. But that will not be formal, may not be formal today, but this will be a courtesy call. But obviously, it is very significant that Mamata Banerjee herself has lost Nandigram.
Yes.
So now it is to be seen that what will be the game plan for this Nandigram issue, because initially we were told that Trinamool Congress will approach the Honorable Supreme Court for the recounting of the entire process, but that has not been finalized so far. Even the election commission has not given any, though Trinamool Congress has filed a formal complaint.
Yes, Prasenjit Bakshi, are you with us? Oh, we seem to have lost contact with Prasenjit, but he was saying that the Trinamool Congress was going to approach the Supreme Court and for a recount, and he was giving us further details about that. We shall get back to him when we establish contact for him to complete his report. But in the meantime, let's continue. The DMK President M.K. Stalin, whose party is all set to form the next government in Tamil Nadu, said that a meeting of the newly elected DMK legislators will be held tomorrow to formally elect the new legislative party leader. Stalin paid homage to his late father, M. Karunanidhi, at his Samadhi, and also at the memorial of the DMK founder, Annadurai, at the Marina Beach in Chennai around midnight. After that, after he was declared elected, in fact, from the Kolattur Assembly constituency, and he told the media persons that the swearing-in ceremony of the new cabinet will be a low-key affair in view of the prevailing pandemic situation. And Philip Matthews now joins us with more inputs on this story. Well, Philip, clearly, I mean, the statement is pretty obvious that he wants to have a low-key swearing in, but when is that going to take place, and you know, what are we expected to see in terms of government formation?
Well, Mark, the indications are that the swearing in is likely to happen on the 7th of this month, and it will be held at the Raj Bhavan. As Stalin indicated in his initial remarks, he said in view of the corona pandemic, they were not planning to hold a grand event in which millions of party cadres and the public take part. The idea was to ensure that, you know, it was a small, intimate gathering of only connected persons, that is the ministers, officials and others. So it's likely to be held at the Raj Bhavan on the 7th of this month. That is the indication we are getting. Apart from that, there will be a legislative party meeting tomorrow, and at which Stalin is expected to be appointed the leader of the legislative party, and thereafter he's likely to meet the governor and submit the letter that, which is appointing him as chief of the party. So that those formalities will be gone through probably tomorrow, and thereafter we are likely to see the swearing in on the 7th of
Philip, you know, I mean, what are the key priorities for the government? We know that, you know, when the DMK was last in power, in fact, they had built a new legislature, and that was changed when Jayalalitha came back to power because she liked the old legislature building. So, you know, are we likely to see them go back to the new building that they had built when they were in power the last time?
Well, Stalin hasn't given any indications of that, and he said his first priority was to fight the corona outbreak in the state. In fact, he's had meetings with his alliance party leaders today. Most of them have called on him to congratulate him on the alliance's victory. And in his initial remarks, he has indicated that his first priority is to stem the corona outbreak that has hit the state in a rather bad way. The second wave, clearly 20,000 cases now per day being reported, and that is almost twice or thrice the number of cases that was reported in the first wave. So clearly that is the first priority for the government. But he has also made it very clear that all the promises that were made in the party manifesto and in the 10-year vision document that were presented to the people, those promises will be met. He said that they may not be met immediately, but in a gradual step-by-step process, all these promises would be fulfilled. And he said he was bound to keep his promises, and he said he would go out of his way to ensure that they were met. Of course, the state is facing a tight financial situation, and it's something that the new government will have to maneuver in order to ensure that it is able to at least fulfill a part of its promises at a time when the corona outbreak is consuming a lot of its time and money.
Right. We leave it there. Thanks very much, Philip Matthews, for those inputs. Moving on to our next story, the Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan submitted his resignation to the Governor, Arif Muhammad Khan. The LDF under Vijayan has swept the elections once again, and a meeting will be held tomorrow to decide on ministers of the CPIM and of the coalition partners in the new ministry. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a phone call today with the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. And the two leaders, they exchanged their views. They exchanged views on the prevailing COVID-19 situation in India and the EU, including India's ongoing efforts to contain the second wave of the COVID-19 surge. So the Prime Minister expressed his appreciation of the EU and its member states in mobilizing quick support for India's fight against the second wave of COVID-19. They noted that the India-EU strategic partnership was witnessing a renewed momentum. Since the last summit in July, the leaders also agreed that the forthcoming India-EU leaders meeting, which is going to take place on the 8th of May 2021, it's a virtual summit, and it's important. It's an important opportunity, they said, to provide renewed momentum to the already multifaceted India-EU relationship. The India-EU leaders meeting will be the first meeting in the EU plus 27 format and reflects the shared ambition of both sides for further strengthening the India-EU strategic partnership. And the European Commission President Ursula has termed her phone call with Prime Minister Narendra Modi as a good one in preparation for the India-EU summit. In a tweet, she said, "There is clear momentum to strengthen our strategic relations on trade, digital, climate change, and multilateralism. I'm encouraged by the prospect of intensifying our trade and investment relations. This would tap into a huge potential to the benefit of our businesses and citizens." In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistani Rangers violated the ceasefire by opening fire along the international border in Jammu Samba division of the Jammu division, that is. This happened this morning. And according to the BSF spokesperson, this was the first ever ceasefire violation by Pakistan along the international border after the two countries signed a fresh agreement to maintain calm along the border. That happened on the 25th of February. So the Inspector General of the BSF Jammu Frontier, N.S. Jambal, said that at about 6:15 hours, the Pakistani Rangers resorted to unprovoked firing along the international border in Ramgarh sector, targeting patrolling party ahead of the fencing. So, however, no damage was caused on the Indian side because of the spark firing. But India and Pakistan had agreed to strictly observe all agreements on ceasefire along the line of control and other sectors in February. And the two countries had earlier signed a ceasefire agreement in 2003, but it was not followed. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold a virtual summit with the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson tomorrow. The summit will be an important opportunity to elevate India's multifaceted strategic ties and to enhance cooperation on regional as well as global issues of mutual interest. So both leaders will also discuss COVID-19 cooperation and the global efforts to fight the pandemic. A comprehensive roadmap 2030 will be launched during the summit, which will pave the way for further expanding and deepening India-UK cooperation over the next decade across 5 key areas, which are people-to-people, relationship, trade, prosperity, defense, security, climate action, and healthcare. In India and the UK, they enjoy a strategic partnership. This has been since 2004, and it has been marked by regular high-level exchanges and growing convergences in diverse areas. The External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, will leave for London on a 4-day visit to participate in the G7 Foreign Ministers meeting. India has been invited as a guest country in the meeting. He will thereafter undertake a bilateral visit to the UK. The US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has arrived in London, where the group of 7 richest countries will look at a proposal to build a rapid response mechanism to counter Russian propaganda and disinformation. The British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab will meet Anthony Blinken today, kicking off a week of diplomacy aimed at reinvigorating the G7's role and forming a wider bulwark against those it sees as undermining the rules-based international order. British and US officials have expressed concern in recent months about growing strategic cooperation between Russia and China. Britain has invited India, Australia, South Korea also to attend this week's meeting, running from today to Wednesday, and the full Leaders Summit in June. Well, speaking ahead of the G7 Foreign Ministers meeting in London, the British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said that Russia's actions were a threat and that cyber attacks were something that the allies across the world would come together to counter. Raab said that Britain is concerned about the threat that Russia posed on the border with Ukraine and also the use of the Novichok attack on Alexei Navalny. That's a great cause of concern.
But we're also getting the G7 to come together with a rapid rebuttal mechanism so that when we see these lies or propaganda or fake news being put out there, we can not just individually but come together to provide a rebuttal and frankly to provide the truth for the people in this country but also in Russia, China and all around the world. I think we are concerned about the threat that we see Russia posing on the border with Ukraine. Also, the wider use of, the Novichok attack on Alexei Navalny is a chemical weapons attack. I think that ought to give great cause for concern. It's a chemical weapons issue, not just a human rights issue. I think the use of cyber, particularly by Russia, but also by China, Iran, and other countries, is something that we're looking at very closely, working with our allies on. We've got great high-tech comparative advantage in the UK. We don't just put that to good use in exploiting commercial opportunities, we also make sure that our resilience and the resilience of our allies is strengthened.
Well, let's now take a look at updates on COVID-19 from across the globe. Over 15 crore 34 lakh people worldwide have so far tested positive for COVID-19 and more than 13 crore 7 lakh people have recovered from the virus. So the deadly virus has so far claimed more than 32 lakh 16,000 lives globally. The United States continues to be the worst affected country by COVID-19. So far, more than 3 crore 31 lakh people have tested positive for COVID-19, while over 5 lakh 91,000 people have died of the virus in the US. So you're watching Midday Prime. It's time now for news and updates from the world of business. And my colleague Tanvi now gives us all the business news. Over to you, Tanvi.
Thank you, Mark. Up first in Business Prime, the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs has released a help desk and a web link for any inquiries regarding imports of COVID-19 related equipments and medicaments. For any inquiry, one can call toll-free number 1800-3010. Further, the complainant can send a WhatsApp message on the number 98106 19628. I repeat, 98106 19628 if the complaint remains unassisted. For any solution related to their personal imports through their personal courier, the CBIC has set up a dedicated website. It is expected that these efforts of the Finance Ministry will solve the problems related to COVID-19 to a large extent. And now to update you on the domestic stock market news. Well, the domestic equity indices have been in the red so far on Monday. So after a weak opening, the Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange remained weak and had declined 296 points or 0.6% to 48,486 a short while ago. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange had slipped 68 points or 0.5% to 14,563. In the broader market, the BSE Mid-Cap Index had dropped 0.4%, but the small cap index had managed to climb 1.2%. The top index losers are Titan, IndusInd Bank, Kotak Mahindra, Axis Bank and SBI with losses of between 2.1 and 4.2%. If you talk about the top index gainers, they are Hindustan Unilever, Maruti Suzuki, Bharti Airtel, NTPC and Nestle with gains of between 2.2 and 1.2%. Shama Mishra now joins us with more inputs from Mumbai on this. Shama, what do you think is causing the current market weakness at the moment?
We did see how the market started trading in completely red zone, and with all the negativity, we did see that Sensex was down 700 points, and even the Nifty was trying to come down 14,500 points. But then we did see both the markets have trimmed their losses and now are trading. They are still in trading in red, but the losses could be said that they are trying to trying to get better. We are seeing that India is reporting a record number of positive cases of COVID-19, and that may be somewhere causing this disturbances in amongst the investors, that India is coming to close towards the 4 lakh mark, the daily cases of COVID-19. That is causing a problem amongst the investors. Apart from that, we are also seeing that vaccination drive is going on a slower process in many states. That above 45 years of age, the vaccination drive has come to a halt. So these are the factors that are causing disturbances on the domestic front. Apart from that, we are also seeing the international front, the Nasdaq, Straits Times, Kospi, all are trading in red zone. So market are also mirroring, Indian markets are also mirroring the international markets, and we are seeing that disturbances is happening all over the world. And in India in particular, when we are talking about the positive number of daily count that is coming above the 3,60,000 mark, this is causing somewhere a problem between people, that maybe a lockdown could be in order, and the entire economic activities could come to a halt. So more or less, this is the this is the factor of fear amongst people, amongst investors, and because of this, we are seeing the markets are trading in red. However, once the number of vaccination doses, they are being supplied to the various states, especially in the the worst affected COVID state, that is Maharashtra and also Delhi. Once that picks up pace, we may see a better performance from the markets, both in the Nifty and the Sensex.
Yes, that's right. We hope the markets recover at the earliest, as we, not only in India but other Asian markets, are also seeing the impact of this coronavirus cases. And other key Asian markets also mostly slipped on Monday, as concerns over rising coronavirus cases in the region led to more curbs and economic pain. So MSCI's broadest index of Asia Pacific shares outside Japan was almost flat. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index was down 1.5%, and Singapore's market also lost ground. But South Korea's Kospi index rose 0.1%. Stock markets in China and Japan were closed today for a holiday. Back home, very quickly, let's update you on the forex market. The rupee slumped 24 paise to 74.33 against the US dollar in opening trade on Monday, tracking weak domestic equities and a strong American currency. However, the rupee later rebounded and had appreciated 2 paise to 74 rupees 4 paise against the dollar a short while ago. At the multi-commodity exchange, gold had strengthened 402 rupees to 47,139 rupees per 10 grams. Silver had added 244 rupees to 67,768 rupees per kilo. And global crude oil prices fell on Monday as the second coronavirus wave in India cut short a recovery in oil demand. This has offset optimism about a strong rebound in demand in developed countries and China in the second half of the year. So Brent crude oil fell 15 cents or 0.2% to $66.61 a barrel. US crude fell 10 cents or 0.2% to $63.48 a barrel. India's overall fuel demand is reportedly down by about 7% from pre-COVID level of April 2019. And now we slip into a short commercial break. Stay tuned for more on the other side.
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
महात्मा के मंत्र। खुद वो बदलाव बनिए जो आप दुनिया में देखना चाहते हैं।
Welcome back. You're watching Midday Prime here on DD News and DD India. And now it's time for news from the world of sports. And Narayan now gives us a roundup of all the sporting action. Over to you, Narayan.
Thanks, Mark. So let's get started with some IPL news. The match between Kolkata Knight Riders and Royal Challengers Bangalore has been postponed due to COVID-19 related concern in KKR camp. Varun Chakravarti and Sandeep Warrier were found to be positive in the third round of testing in the last 4 days. All other team members have tested negative for COVID-19. KKR last played on April 29 against Delhi Capitals in Ahmedabad, and the development is bound to trigger some anxiety in the tournament, which had been going along smoothly so far. Virat Kohli-led RCB have made a strong start in the IPL 2021 as the team has won 5 out of the 7 matches. On the other hand, KKR have been struggled to get going in the 14th edition and are ranked second from bottom in the points table with 2 wins from 7 matches. Meanwhile, Shikhar Dhawan's delightful 69 upstage, Mayank Agarwal's unbeaten 99 as Delhi defeated Punjab by 7 wickets in an Indian Premier League match in Ahmedabad to go top of the points table. Dhawan's ruthless knock, his third half century of this year's tournament and second against Punjab, ensured that the Delhi cruised home with 14 balls to spare and moved over Chennai Super Kings at the summit. For Punjab, it was their 5th loss in 8 games, summing up their consistent run. Meanwhile, Barcelona came from behind to win 3-2 at the Valencia to keep alive the most enthralling title race of the years in La Liga after a shock home defeat to Granada in midweek. Ronald Koeman's side simply had to win at Mestalla. Valencia went ahead through 50th minute goal from ex-Arsenal defender Gabriel Paulista. 5 minutes later, Messi scored equalizer just after missing a penalty. Onto a Griezmann put Barca ahead and Messi clipped a trademark free kick before Carlos Soler's screamer gave Valencia vain hope. Barca host leader Atletico Madrid next Saturday at Camp Nou. Third place Barcelona level on points with arch rivals Real, but beneath them in the table because Real have won both the El Clasico games this season. Meanwhile, Manchester United's Premier League game against Liverpool was postponed after about 200 fans broke into Old Trafford to protest against the Glazer family's ownership of the club. Police said 2 officers had been injured during the protest. It is the first time a Premier League match has been postponed because of a fan protest. The protests follow United's decision along with 5 fellow Premier League clubs to join the European Super League last month before subsequently all pulling out. Elsewhere in Italy, Inter Milan have won Serie A title for the first time in 11 years to end Juventus's 9-year reign in Italy. Inter are 13 points clear in first place with 4 games remaining, and their triumph ends a run of 9 consecutive title wins for Juventus. This year's league success marks their 19th Serie A crown and is their first since winning the Serie A, Coppa Italia and Champions League treble in 2009-2010 under Jose Mourinho. Inter have therefore overtaken AC Milan, who have 18 Serie A titles, to become the second most successful club in league's history behind Juventus with 36 league wins. That's all from the sporting world. For more updates, back to you, Mark.
Thanks very much, Narayan. And now let's move on to our next segment, which is Life Prime, stories about art, culture, cinema, fashion, stories that are bringing smiles to people's faces. Well, 2 suns will appear in 5 cities during the month of May. The real sun in the sky, of course, but also the chrysanthemum-like depiction of it in a video by a British artist, David Hockney. The 2.5-minute animation will be broadcast on digital billboards in major cities across the world. And let's see how Britons have treated this artist's work as it lit up the Piccadilly Circus.
A giant piece of artwork by Britain's David Hockney, meant to inspire hope after a year of on-off lockdown, was on Saturday emblazoned across the iconic billboard of London's Piccadilly Circus. The work called Remember You Cannot Look at the Sun or Death for Very Long is a symbol of hope and collaboration as the world awakens from its lockdowns to protect populations from COVID-19. It will be shown once a day for the month of May in London, New York, Tokyo, Seoul and Los Angeles. Britons who thronged the circus found the sunshine a bit refreshing.
I don't really know if it inspired a lot, to be honest, but it's just a bit of light, really. And I think at the moment it's just that sunshine thing just feels good with lockdown hopefully easing up.
It was great. I really loved it. It really had a very strong message and really strong visual as well.
On a Saturday night, Piccadilly Circus is normally thronging with tourists, but travel restrictions due to the pandemic starved it of the crowds that normally gather. Vaccination programs are helping pushing down COVID-19 infections and deaths in many countries, but some are battling a fresh wave. But as Hockney said, you cannot look at the sun or death for very long. Remember, there's still hope for a day without any gloom. Bureau Report, DD India.
And on that happy note, let's conclude Midday Prime for today. Thanks very much for watching. Namaskar.